Hello everyone, David here. The age of extinction is almost upon us, and to celebrate it, here it is, my unfortunately last review leading up to the release of the new Transformers movie, and it is for later class Grimlock. Now real quick, I'm going to show the figure in its packaging, and I already talked about the packaging with Optimus Prime, so I'm not going to go into too much detail about it. Like I've stated in that review, you got the basic window showing up the figure, and being that it's a leader class, no matter what, it's going to be come packaged in his robot mode. So there he is right there. You got Transformers in red text up against a white backdrop, which, like I said before, it's very alluring. I like the contrast with the colors. Got Grimlock, we got the logo letting you know that this is from the movie line, as well as this really nice, terrifying graphic of Grimlock in his Dinobot mode. Turn it to the right, you got, like I said, this white backdrop with the Autobot logo and this it's meteor or something in red. But like I said, I like the contrast. Turn it to the other side and you got the continuation of the graphic as well as Transformers in red text up against white. You got the Autobot symbol, Transformers Generations Leader Class, Series M4 number 002, which means this follows shortly after Voyager Optimus Prime in the line. At the top, again, you got red and white and the Autobot symbol and this weird recycling logo. And then at the bottom, you got, once again, red, white, Autobot, authentic Transformer figure. And then you turn it to the back and you got, once again, your basic info such as the bio, images of him in both his Dino mode as well as his robot mode, and the other figure recommended in the line, which in this case is the leader version of Optimus Prime. And similar to the packaging for Evasion mode Optimus Prime, you got here changes in 18 steps. You got a picture of the figure that looks nothing like the actual figure, because I haven't even opened it yet and I can already tell that his head does not have that much gold. Just letting you know that right now. As well as the mace here. This is not orange, it's black. But in this picture, it is. I don't know why, but that's how they always do it. And then you got a brief bio here. He has battled countless enemies across the universe, never concerning himself with trophies, only victories. He has proven difficult to capture and nearly impossible to defeat. When an enemy does manage to get the best of him, it's never for long. Uncaged and unleashed, Grimlock is concerned with only one thing: vengeance against those who would try to control him. So he's pretty much a freaking animal. That's all we really need to know about Grimlock. And here we have another little indicator to whatever weapon they come packaged with, which in this case is the Dragon Tooth Mace. But unlike Optimus Prime with this Ion Cannon, the mace is actually here. So they actually did a good job at having this be close to whatever it is that it's pointing out, which is right here, the mace. It's right there. Unlike freaking Optimus Prime, where it said Ion Cannon and his cannon's like all the way over here. And much like with Optimus Prime, the specs for Grimlock are not present, which in my case I would have liked to have seen, because I've seen the specs for Optimus Prime over and over, because I own, I think right now, 3 iterations, 3 maybe 4 iterations of Optimus Prime, from War for Cybertron, Fall of Cybertron, the first 2 movie lines, and I really want to own a Masterpiece Optimus Prime, hopefully in the future. But at this point, I have his specs practically memorized in my brain. Like I said, it's mostly all 10s, with I think a 7 for speed and all that. With Grimlock, on the other hand, I would have liked to have seen a little section here of his specs, because I don't know him very well, so it would have been nice to know that, hey, oh, he's that strong, he's that powerful, he's that fast, yada yada yada. But no matter. I can do without it. So, enough talk. Let's go ahead and open this big bad boy and take a look at the figure itself. And so here we have Leader Class Grimlock in his Dinobot mode, or I believe he's being referred to as a Carnotaur. I believe that's the kind of quote-unquote species of dinosaur that he's trying to model himself after, even though he's still looking like a robot. But nonetheless, he is some form of a dinosaur that resembles a T-Rex of some kind. Now, if you guys have noticed, I have this little white setup going around here that unfortunately I wasn't able to try out with Optimus Prime, but before I managed to do this review, or at least before I got to the figure portion of the review, I managed to go ahead and construct this little setup here in hopes of getting some better lighting, and also to not have you guys be distracted by all the stuff that's going on over there in the background, and therefore just focus on the actual figure itself. And Grimlock in this mode looks pretty cool. I mean, he reminds me an awful lot of the figures from back in the day when, you know, as kids you would be excited to get a Transformer, and it's a dinosaur, so he kind of gives me that nostalgic vibe of getting a figure out of the packaging and be like, oh, he looks so awesome, he looks so badass, he's a dinosaur. And because of the chrome pieces, it reminds me an awful lot of the Transmetal figures. That's not to say that he doesn't have his problems, because he really does, but he still is a really good looking figure. First of all, I feel like Grimlock here in his Carnotaur mode, or whatever you want to call it, I feel like he was divided into certain sections. Not only in respects to the color scheme, but also the mold and the way he's built and even the articulation. Let's go ahead and tackle the color scheme for a second. I really do like the color scheme. I like the choice of going with this really sun-like orange here in the back, and I do like the inclusion of chrome because I think it suits Grimlock well as certain pieces of dark brown here, as well as an awful lot of black on the underside. However, I feel like all of the colors are kind of segregated. I feel like all the orange is kind of bunched up here in the tail area. It's all here, whereas the chrome is all here in the back towards the spinal area, as well as the head and neck. And all of the black is, like I said, underneath. So I feel like maybe if they have mixed some of the colors and kind of blended them together, we would have had a better color scheme, a better looking figure, and maybe it would have brought out some of the detail more, especially with the chrome here in his back area. I feel like it's all chrome there, and there's some nice little details going on there, but I feel like maybe if they would have put some linings of black or orange, they would have stand out a little bit more, instead of just being all chrome and being a little bit blinding to the eyes. Although I feel like it does work for the head. I like the head sculpt, and I do like the idea of making the head chrome with a little bit of black here, as well as the turquoise blue for his eyes. Now, like I stated before, the same thing goes for the mold. For the most part, the molding for this figure is actually pretty good. Like I said, I like the head sculpt. I do dig this tail portion. In fact, this whole area this way, as well as his head, looks great, in my opinion. It looks great. But my biggest pet peeve with this figure, not only in terms of the mold but the figure itself, would have to be, in this particular mode, this entire torso area, which looks like a bit of a flat pancake. It looks like everything was compressed together in that one area. But unlike Optimus Prime, the Voyager class evasion mode Optimus Prime, where almost his entire body was compacted into the cabin of the truck and it looked good, here it just looks like it's all bundled together, and his torso just doesn't look very good. It looks, like I said, it reminds me an awful lot like a flat pancake, to where it's very wide but it's very thin, and it's very disproportionate, especially when you take a look at the arms here. It just looks very flat and wide and disproportionate. But the rest of the figure looks good in terms of molding and detail. Let me go ahead and give you guys a little close-up here of the head, which, like I said, I think it looks really, really good. It's actually one of my favorite aspects of the figure, because it really does stand out an awful lot, especially when you consider the fact that you can actually open his mouth. That's actually a nice little detail, and it can actually open very far, so that's actually pretty cool, and it looks pretty fearsome. And like I said, the rest of the figure, minus the torso area, which I have major complaints about, looks pretty good, especially the legs here. I like the detail in the feet there and the legs, and you know, it's all pretty cool and dandy, especially the detail and the molding captured here in the tail area. I don't know why, but I like all of that right there. And like I said, I enjoy the decision to paint it like I said, like a sunset orange. So yeah, it looks good. It looks pretty good. And like I said, the same thing goes for the articulation of this figure. I feel like the majority of the articulation is here in the back area and his legs, because that's mostly where the figure depends on it the most, because not much like a real T-Rex, because this guy, because of the fact that they went ahead and bundled everything here in the torso area, he's very, I guess, top heavy, you want to call it that. I like to say front heavy because most of the weight is here in the front rather than the back in the tail area. So he falls forward very easily. And because of that, you need to rely an awful lot on the articulation for the legs in order to really pose him in a good way so that he will stand still and he'll be really well balanced. And they did a good job with that in the articulation for the legs because, for one, the legs are actually rather thick, so you're not going to have to worry an awful lot about wobbling or, like I said, finding lacking balance in the figure so that you're able to pose him very well. And on top of that, he's got ratcheted joints, so this figure is definitely going to stay still for a long duration of time. In fact, probably with the exception of being tipped over by some kind of external force, he's definitely going to stand for an awful long time. And that's very cool, especially since he's got wide feet. He's going to be able to stand without tipping over an awful lot. Besides that though, there's almost no other form of articulation throughout the figure except for maybe the arms here. You got a point of articulation there in the elbow as well as the upper arm, but that's really about it. Although, one little note here, I don't know what happened, Hasbro, but for some reason they packaged my Grimlock with exchanged arms. The left one was on the right and the right one was on the left, and it was mainly just the lower arm here. And when I saw that, I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna have to return the figure. But fortunately, these things do pop off very easily, like so. So I was able to exchange them and put them on the correct arm. So, whew, I saved shipping and having to wait there. So that was a plus. And like I said, the head could kind of rotate up, but then it starts to look a little weird, and that's mainly because of the transformation. So the head can't really go anywhere without either not being able to move, which is downwards, or moving but looking kind of weird, which is upwards. But like I stated before, the mouth could open rather wide, so that's kind of neat. And that's really it for not only the articulation, but anything that the figure could do in this mode, because that's actually about it. He really can't do anything else. There's no tail articulation. The tail is completely static, if you will. And something tells me that there were original blueprints where he was meant to have electronics. Hasbro meant to put electronics in this guy as well as Leader Prime, but because, like I've stated many times before, they're making figures with a much more expensive price tag, and they're making them smaller because they keep saying that it's more costly to make figures these days because of the price of plastic and all that. So obviously they're cutting back on costs, and they're gonna be excluding certain features, and one of those features is electronics, because I definitely think that they missed out on an opportunity to put electronics in Grimlock here, because I feel like they could have found a way to light up his eyes, make him roar, make him open his mouth, or have lighting going on throughout his body and to make him look rather cool. But they decided to go ahead and omit that, and instead we have a figure that looks kind of neat in Dino mode, with the exception of this whole entire section here, but doesn't really do much else. So with that being said, let's go ahead and transform him to robot mode and see what he can do there. So first things first, we're going to go ahead and remove this entire tail portion of the figure, which is mainly going to form his accessories later on, but we're not going to worry about that right now. Let's go ahead and just take the tail here and just pop it off from this piece right here, like that. There's a little tab right there. I don't know if you can see it right there. And there's a little slot there. And that's where this clips in. So we're going to go ahead and undo that. And we're going to set this entire tail portion, which, like I said, is going to make up his accessories, to the side, and we'll worry about that later. Let's go ahead and just focus on the figure itself here, which is, of course, now officially top heavy because it doesn't have its tail to balance it. So now we got to fix that and transform him to robot mode. So first things first, let's go ahead and see what I can do here, because I will not lie, this figure was a bitch to transform into Carnotaur mode or dinosaur mode, whatever you want to call it, because like you guys saw, it came packaged in his robot mode, and I had to transform him to this mode, and getting everything to fit together again in this stupid section was a pain, and I actually had to resort to the instructions. So That was pretty sad. So let's go ahead and transform him to Robo Mode, which is definitely going to be a whole lot easier. Let's go ahead and take the arms and kind of align them to the side like this. Let's go ahead and do that over here on this side. Like that. You're going to have to do it later, so I might as well do it right now. Take the head and flip it up like that. And basically you're just going to reach in here and take these panels and pop them off like that. And I guess subsequently, if you tug on it strong enough, that'll undo this entire section like this. Like that. And you're actually going to reach in here, take what's going to be the legs here, and pop them off from the main body like that. And as you can see, he's already starting. He already looks like a whole nother dinosaur like this. Might as well look like a pterodactyl. Let me actually go ahead and zoom out the camera a little bit. This is a leader class figure, which is, you know, for all terms and purposes, it is larger than the Voyager figure that I reviewed last week. So he's definitely going to be bigger, and therefore he requires more room. So now what you're going to do is actually take this entire portion of the head and rotate it downwards like this. And now we're going to go ahead and rotate the figure 180 degrees so that we can go ahead and have the figure start taking shape. And first things first, we're going to have to do the legs so that we can get this guy standing. Go ahead and just align the legs and have these trapezoid-like shapes here facing forwards, and make sure that they're facing forwards like this. And yes, you do hear right to the joints. I'll talk about that later. Make sure that the leg is facing forwards completely by having this pointed piece here, which is going to be his knee guard, facing forwards. So have this rotated around like this. And now comes what seems to be a complicated step, but it's not really. Basically, we're going to go ahead and rotate the figure around so we can see the back side. And right there, you can clearly see the arms of the dinosaur mode that I was talking about earlier. And like I say, you're going to have to align them to kind of get them out of the way here. Like that. And so now you're going to dig in here and take these little spiked pieces that are made out of rubber and kind of fold them out. Do the same thing on this side. I don't know if I could reach in there. There you go. Do the same thing on this side. And now basically what you're gonna do is take these two panels, the black one and the chrome one, and fold them around like this. And then here at the top you got this little circular piece here that's gonna go into that circular groove right there. Same thing with the other side. You got this circular peg right there. It's gonna go into that circular groove right there and fit into place. Doesn't pop into place, but it fits into place like that. And so now you're going to take the foot and this orange piece that it's connected to and flip it up, and you're going to have this tab right there, and you can see it, this tab right there fit into this groove right there. I don't know if you can see it. Right there, there's a groove. Let me see if I can show this better on camera. Right there, see? Tab fit into the groove right there. And so now go ahead, go back up here, take these spiky pieces, whatever they're called, and fold them in so that you can disguise the back of the leg much better. And simply just repeat with the other leg. Go ahead and take the two panels, fold them around like this, have the circular tab fit into the circular groove. Same thing with the black piece here, do the same thing like that. Then take the ankle, rotate it up and fit it into the groove. I don't know why it doesn't want to fit in now. There you go. Have it fit into the groove right there. Fold these pieces in like that. And now we go to the front of the figure. And our legs are pretty much done, but now we need to take the feet and rotate it all the way around so that they're facing forwards. And I don't know why this is the case, but it just is. Reach in here, take the little tips of his feet and rotate them all the way around and upwards to fold out his little Aladdin feet. Because for some reason, Grimlock has Aladdin feet. And so now we get the legs situated, and we pretty much have the bottom portion of the figure done. And so now we got to rotate the camera and kind of zoom it out a little bit, because I feel like I'm not getting the entire figure, and also because I needed to zoom in, or zoom out I should say. But there we have Grimlock coming together, looking nicely. And so now things are going to be a little bit simpler, because I feel like the most complicated portion of the transformation would have to be the legs. And now that we got that out of the way, I feel like it's kind of downhill from here. Well, sort of. So now, as you can see, his hind legs from his dinosaur mode are now going to be his regular arms in robot mode. So basically you just take them, fold them down like so, fold them out, make sure that they're straightened out. You're actually going to take the bottom portion of his arm and rotate it around like this. And here you have his robot hand rotated around so that it's facing forwards and in the correct way. And now you take the dino foot and you fold it up, but you have to hold the hand so that it doesn't fold it up with it. So simply just take the dino foot, fold it up like this. And it's one of those things where, since you're dealing with a transformer that transforms into some kind of animal kibble is going to be left over in his robot mode. It's going to be exposed somehow, some way. You guys remember Optimus Primal? He still had some ape parts kind of dangling from his arms or his legs or something like that, and they're kind of sort of in plain view. Well, that's the case here with Grimlock in his robot mode. We can kind of see his dino feet here on his forearms, but that's just how it is. So go ahead and do the same thing with the other arm. Situate it, fold it down, rotate this, make sure that his hand is facing the right way. Take the dino foot, fold it up, but then fold down the hand so that it's in the proper way. And like I said, it's already coming together. So now we're going to go here in the back and take, move his dino head out of the way. It's completely coming out of his ass right there, oh my god. Take these black pieces here and fold them down. And they're kind of attached, so you need to pop them off. Rotate them down like this. Same thing on this side. Fold them down. And let me see. Oh, you're gonna have to. This one's a little complicated. Basically, what you're gonna do is take. Oops, sorry about that. Basically, what you're gonna do is take the shoulders here and pop them off like so, and simply just take them and rotate them backwards so that, I don't know if you can see it right there, but you got 2 slots right there and 1 platinum peg right there. And originally the peg was inside that second upwardmost, is that even a word? I don't know. But that upmost slot was where that peg was. So now you take it, you pop it off, and you rotate it backwards so that now the peg is going to go into the downmost slot. And just pop it in, and it's actually a little bit tough. There you go. So you simply just pop it in and do the same thing with the other shoulder. Take it, rotate it up, and pop it into the shoulder like this. There you go. And now I believe we can kind of do what in my opinion is kind of the coolest part of the transformation, which is to take the entire section here that consists of his arms and his chest and his complete upper body area, and fold it down to reveal the head and kind of get everything situated into place and cover up this entire area here with this slot. So you just take it, fold it down, and there's this head right there. Everything is fit into place, and now he looks a lot more proportional. And now we can go ahead and rotate the figure around. We can come down here and actually take this entire area here and fold it up. And when you do so, you can actually take this peg here and fit it into that slot right there. So you just take it, fold it up, fit it into place like this. And now we can pretty much just split up the dino head here at the top. Let me show you. You can actually split it up like this. Fold it into 2s like that. And that actually looks kind of cool when you think about it. It's almost like he has 2 dino heads. But yeah, you take it, you take the jaw of each half, you fold it down like this, and then you fold it into itself like that. Kind of fit it into place there. The same thing on this side. Take the bottom jaw, fit it into place. If you like, there's a peg there and there's a little hole you can kind of fit it in, even though it doesn't fit all the way, but you can kind of do that. And now you just take this piece, rotate it upwards, fold the two halves of his head down. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but go ahead and try. Situate the halves of his dinosaur head onto his shoulders. They're supposed to be kind of like shoulder guards of some kind. I'm not entirely sure, but they're supposed to rest there. And then go here in the back and once again take these black pieces and fold them out to keep this entire section here in place. Fold it up into there. And there we have leader class Grimlock in robot mode. Now, in my opinion, I think, let me readjust the camera here. In my opinion, I think Grimlock in this mode looks significantly better than he did in dinosaur mode, which is kind of saying a lot, especially since I haven't actually seen Grimlock's robot mode in action. I have avoided all the TV spots and all that stuff so far up until this point, and I'm hoping to go into the movie fresh so that when I do see him transform and I actually see the CG version of him in robot mode in the movie, I'll be like, oh yeah, that looks pretty cool. But I will say that so far I am liking the design. Ooh, and I forgot the final touches here. You can actually take these rubber pieces here and fold them out, and you can actually take the peg that they have here at the end and fit it into that little hole. It doesn't peg into place, but it's just there to kind of hold the rubber piece like that. Do the same thing on the other side. It's mostly there to give him some kind of dynamic, flashy flair like that. But yeah, anyways, like I was saying, I feel like his robot mode here looks a whole lot better than he did in Dino mode. For one, I think the proportions are way better than in robot mode. The only exception to that would probably be his head. I feel like his head is super, super tiny. Look at that. That head is so tiny compared to this massive hulking body that he has. But still, I like the design of him. I feel like the chrome works a whole lot better in this mode than it did in Dino mode, because in Dino mode, like I said, I felt like it was all clumped on his spinal area, whereas here you got a little bit here in the abdominal area and here on his shoulder guards, which are obviously part of his dino head, and a little bit here in the inside portion of the legs. I gotta be honest, I feel like the design for his legs remind me an awful lot of Megatron, G1 Megatron to be exact. So I don't know if there's a little bit of a link there, but it reminds me an awful lot of G1 Megatron for some reason. But yeah, I feel like his proportions are way better here than they were in Dino mode, and it is a little bit tough to get him to stand correctly without looking like an idiot, because I do feel like besides the head being a little too small, his legs might be a little too skinny, mainly here in the upper leg area more so than the lower leg area, because the lower legs look alright, especially not only in terms of detail because of the chrome as well as the sculpt, but they look good. Whereas the upper leg, I feel like these are a little too thin. But still, I think he looks way better in this mode, and the color scheme suits him very well. I feel like it's all evenly balanced in this mode, more so than in his Dino mode. And with the exception of the legs and the head, the proportions are way better. And what's also improved would have to be the articulation. Like you heard throughout the entire transformation, he has an awful lot of right to the joints, and I already kind of showcased the right to the joints here in his arms because they were his dinosaur legs, and so he still retains the same kind of movement with his arms moving vertically forwards and backwards, but they are hindered by this shoulder guard piece here. But they do manage to move like so. They do go inwards and outwards, but they are a little bit hindered by this other shoulder guard area. I kind of don't understand there, but anyways, yeah, it does move inwards and outwards. It does bend at the elbow right there, as well as a upper, I guess we could call it an upper elbow swivel right there. It's not necessarily in the bicep, but it's right here, right above that right to the joint in the elbow. And his hands do rotate much more freely than Optimus Prime's did. He's got right to the joints in the leg, more so here in the upper leg area, that rotate forwards and backwards. He's got a knee joint that allows the knee to bend that far back, which is actually pretty damn far. It's more so than 90 degrees, as well as a tiny bit forward, but not so much. And it's also hindered by this knee guard here. And he does have a foot pivot that allows the foot to move up and down that far, as well as rotate 360 degrees horizontally. I don't feel like there's... Oh, wait. I don't know. Being that this joint here is constructed a certain way, he can kind of pivot his foot to the side like that a little bit, but not when it's facing forwards completely. Like, it can't rotate on its, what is this, the x-axis or the y-axis? I don't know what it's called, but it can't really pivot all that well, mainly because of how this ankle joint is designed. And before I forget, he does have an upper thigh swivel right there. And that's really about it for the articulation, which in my opinion is just a tad bit disappointing, because as much as I love the ratchetry of the articulation in his legs and his arms, I am a little disappointed that there's no waist articulation, so you can't rotate his upper torso from his bottom torso whatsoever. And his head can rotate 360 degrees, I believe completely. Yeah, it can. Rotate 360 degrees, but it cannot look up and down, which in my opinion is a little problematic, considering that his head always looks like it's facing downwards, even when I position him in a certain way and try to get him to look more upwards. It looks like he's always facing down. I wish I can rotate the head upwards a little bit more, but instead he just looks like he's always facing down. And that's kind of an issue. And unlike him in his Dino mode, besides looking cool in Robot mode, he does come with some accessories that I am going to showcase right now. Like I said before, they're all mainly in his tail portion of his Dino mode. And basically what you do is you take these two pieces and separate them, like so. Got two pegs right there that clasp right in there. There's two holes right there that fit right into place. And this portion of his tail is going to make up his shield. And basically what you do is you reach in here and you rotate this black piece down like this. And then you take this rubber piece and fold it down. And that's actually something about the figure that I didn't talk about earlier, is that almost every pointy, and I mean almost, and I'll get to that in a second, but almost every pointy part of Grimlock is made out of this rubbery material, so that obviously kids don't freaking hurt themselves with them. But anyways, this is how you make his shield. And the other piece is gonna form his dragon tooth mace. Basically what you do is you take these two sections here, split them apart, and that'll actually allow this entire section to move up and down freely like this. And in order to make the mace, you take this entire section, flip it up to the farthest it can, and you take these two pieces, rotate them all the way around until they clip into place like this. And there you have the Dragon Tooth Mace, which in my opinion is actually a rather badass looking character. Now earlier I said almost because I find it kind of funny that this weapon has pointy sections right there, but they're not made out of rubber, they're actually made out of hard plastic, so this could hurt. But still, a pretty cool and somewhat realistic weapon to give none other than to Grimlock. So let's go ahead and put him into his hands. It's pretty easy to put the Dragon Tooth Mace, because all you gotta really do is fit it into his hand like so. And there you go, there's this Dragon Tooth Mace. Let me see if I can make him look any more badass with it. Like so. Make sure that he doesn't topple over. And then with his shield, it's actually kind of tricky. You take this tab that I was referring to earlier, and it actually fits into his dino foot that's on his forearm. So you kind of need to get the entire bottom portion of his arm, rotate it around, and go ahead and have this tab right there go into that slot. I don't know if you can see it. Right there. There's a slot right there. You just take the tab, fit it into his forearm there. And there's this shield right there. And yeah, I do like his look. I do like his look here way better than in his Dino mode, and he really does look badass. The color scheme complements him a whole lot better here than in his Dinosaur mode. The proportions are way better, even though it's a little off with the legs and the head, but still looks rather cool. Now for size comparison, and to further emphasize my frustration with Hasbro about their shrinking of their figures, here I have Revenge of the Fallen Leader Class Optimus Prime, and as you can see, he looks like Optimus looks like he can take on Grimlock in this state, because even though Optimus is not that much taller than Grimlock, I mean, he's here, so he's only about maybe half an inch taller, maybe even a little less than that, but he still has all this bulky type of structure to him that was really worth of a leader class figure. I mean, this thing, like I stated many times before, this thing is practically a masterpiece, whereas this guy is still a cool figure, but he really does feel, I don't want to say flimsy, but a little slimmer compared to this guy. And you can definitely see my point here with Hasbro shrinking their figures, and that not being a very justifiable business plan to get us to buy their figures. So let's go ahead and get this guy out of the way. I already made my point many times before. So Grimlock, good figure. I don't like it as much as Optimus, Voyager class, Evasion Mode Optimus Prime from the new Age of Extinction line, but he still has an awful lot of good things going for him, but he also has an awful lot of bad, well, I don't want to say an awful lot, but he has some bad things going for him that do hinder the experience of playing around with this figure, especially when the transformation of the figure from robot to Dino mode, especially that first time around, is pretty nerve-wracking to the point where I was scared to break the figure, but fortunately it pays off after practicing it, and also I feel like we got some good things going for this iteration of Grimlock, and for that I give Leader Class, Age of Extinction, Grimlock an 8 out of 10. Like I said, I still like Optimus better, but I do think that he's on par with that other figure that I managed to get from this line. Now before I go, speaking of Optimus Prime, I need to do one more thing. Yeah, there you go. Now I know some people have said, oh, that's not the right Optimus to do. I don't care, okay? It's the best scale representation that we will ever get of that scene, and I will continue to do it over and over. And I think this looks pretty cool. Kind of goofy, but still pretty cool. Let me know what you guys thought of Leader Class Grimlock, if you own him, if you don't. I'll have to say that, yeah, you know, he's not a bad figure to own. I wouldn't recommend to get him right away. Maybe, you know, later on when he gets put on clearance after the movie gets released, and then get him. I think then you'll be pretty happy with them. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys later.